Welcome back to the Alec Lewis Show. I am your host, Alec Lewis. This is episode 114, recording on Thursday, September 18th. The guest for you today is Paul Dehner Jr. He covers the Bengals in Cincinnati for The Athletic, a colleague of mine who I respect immensely. He does a hell of a job, has his own podcast. Just one of the best we've got. So think you guys will really enjoy the conversation. We talked Jake Browning, Carson Wentz, Al Golden's defense, the Vikings defense, Harrison Smith, Christian Darr, got into everything, and it was very fun to get prediction at the end. So just stay tuned for the end. Got into everything. It was a blast. As always, this show right here, the Alec Lewis Show, which we do 2 times a week, is presented by First Resource Bank. If you don't know about it, please look it up or check the link in the description. It's a member FDIC bank in the Minneapolis area with branches everywhere, run by really good people who are also Vikings fans. It's a great online banking platform, so highly recommend going to check First Resource Bank out. If you're new here on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We really appreciate you doing that. Hit the like, all that good stuff. It helps us out. And then if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or iHeart, you can follow and rate and review. And we would be grateful for that as well. I also want to mention, I got this hoodie from Unreal. If you haven't heard of it, it's a brand I'm wearing here. And it is as high quality of an apparel brand that I've found. It's literally why I'm wearing it right here. They do limited drops throughout the season with special hoodies, premium. I mean, like this I mean, it is as high quality as possible. And I don't say that just to say it. It is a great brand based here in St. Paul. And they've got drops all throughout the year. So this was the Dublin one. It's like scripted on the back, but you can stay tuned for more of those. There are more forthcoming in October and later on. And we'll cue you guys into those forthcoming throughout the season. Can't wait to do that. You'll see me with a lot of this because it's literally the most comfortable stuff and probably best looking that I have. So, yeah. Without further ado, let's get right into our conversation with Paul Dehner Jr. about this Vikings-Bengals game.
All right, Alec, let's talk about this game. This was not what it was supposed to be. It's not what it was supposed to be, man. It was not. When Jim Nantz and Tony Romo signed up for this is not what they had in mind. It was not supposed to be like this, but here we are.
First of all, it's great to see you. I'm excited.
Yes.
You were. It's funny. We talked about this trip like a month ago, and you were just amped up. I didn't know at the time that it was Nance and Romo and the whole deal. But my thing at that when we talked about it is like, how is Brian Flores, Joe Burrow? Like I couldn't wait to see that. And now we're at this place that we are somehow. Somewhere.
Jake Browning, Carson Wentz. Look, all I know is I'm going to have a great time in Minneapolis. I'm very excited to test out some of the recs that you've given us. I'm going to come back with a full report for everybody, but it looks like a great I'm coming at just the right time. You know, we got this game early in the season, so I don't have to worry about coming when it's cold and snowy or any of that. Lots of great direct flights from Cincinnati to Minneapolis, which I'm excited about. I've done the half-hour layover there a million times where you have to run across the airport. Happy I can not have to worry about that and just get out into the town. So excited about my actual trip, but let's talk about this game. Carson Wentz, does anybody know what to expect here? I feel like I can't find anybody that can put a finger on what to expect with Carson Wentz.
Well, he hasn't even been here a month. Like he arrived in, I believe it was August 23rd for a workout. And at the time, the Vikings backup was going to be Sam Howell. They had made this trade with Seattle to get Sam Howell in the draft. And Sam Howell had a brutal training camp. And the Vikings decided at that point, we need another backup behind our quarterback who had never played an NFL game. So they brought in Carson Wentz, who had familiarity with quarterbacks coach Josh McCown. And it's been like a speed round of trying to absorb what is a very complex system. He has some familiarity from his time in Los Angeles with Sean McVay a couple of years ago, but it is like his career, Paul, going through the arc of it, it's not like anything I've ever seen. I was doing it for a story I had Thursday, and it's like, he's got 3 seasons of 27 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Then he's got the 2021 year with the Colts where he threw for 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but it flamed out in the backstretch. He's had torn ACLs. He's had concussions. He went to Washington and it was terrible. Like I wrote this. It's like he's been a savior, a backup, a journeyman, a recovered starter. I mean, every single thing. And so with this infrastructure, with this coaching staff, there's probably some reason to believe, but I'm with you where, I've been asked here locally what I expect. There's just absolutely no telling on Sunday what it's going to look like.
It's funny because, I think you can say the exact same thing for the Bengals. The Bengals actually probably have a way better feel for what it's going to look like. And even they're very much an unknown because how much will they adjust with Jake Browning? Like, how will they try to be a little bit more run heavy, less featuring some of the Joe Burrow wide open stuff? Will we see more under center play action? All these things that like they just don't do a ton of with Joe because he can just sit back and pick people apart. And so how much does that change who they've even been through the first 2 weeks? We have seen this before where we've seen Brian Flores against Jake Browning. And Jake Browning had a memorable game. He threw his helmet, said, "You should have never effing cut me." And he was unbelievable. He tore up the blitz in a big way in that game. And it was like, okay, so will that cause Brian Flores to scale that back a little bit now, a different game plan that maybe he would have? I don't know. It's as wide open. Usually I feel like you go in and I know exactly what I expect this game to look like and what a winning formula will look like for this team and that team. I don't know. I'm just going to sit back and watch, and we'll figure it out later.
My question for you with the Bengals offense, if we just want to start there, because it is curious to me. You mentioned this game from 2023. I go back. I mean, that Vikings defense, from a talent perspective, was so devoid of talent that it was like this max pressure, max drop system. And the Bengals, that game in 2023 really supplied the formula for how to attack that defense. And it was a lot of like deep in-breaking dagger cuts. This defense is so different from a talent perspective now, and they've implemented more coverages. My question to you would be, like, how much can they rely on the run game? Because that has been the one area of the Vikings defense early on that the Falcons just ran for 200 plus this past weekend. So how much can the Bengals rely on Chase Brown and that offensive line, which I know people there seem to have a lot of feelings about?
Yeah, well, they have a pass blocking offensive line because they're the most pass heavy team in football, and now they need to figure out how to run the ball with them. So it makes it a little more challenging.
Tough.
And I don't know. I mean, they haven't been able to. I think they thought they were going to be able to come into this season and run the ball a lot better than they had in previous years. When Chase Brown took over midway through last season, Zach Moss got hurt and went out for the year, and they fully turned it over to him. Last half of the season, Chase Brown was 5th in the NFL in scrimmage yards. I mean, he was great, but he wasn't as explosive running the ball. A lot of his stuff came in the short, quick pass game and off script and stuff like that. Now, I think the opportunity they thought coming into this year was they can build the run game a little bit better around Chase Brown's skill set. And through 2 weeks, we just have not seen anything like that. It's been awful, worst in the NFL in terms of almost every major metric and yards per carry. Now, the Browns' run defense is good. So we're in a lot of small sample size territory. I think they're going to give a little bit more effort, obviously, with what's happening at quarterback, into invigorating that, whether that's more 12, which they used a lot last year at times, or just different types of maybe more of the under center and wide zone stuff, stuff that they haven't done as much because they're in gun run game. So I think sprinkling some of that stuff in to try to juice it up could help them. But yeah, it just hasn't been good. And you're asking guys whose specialty is pass pro to go run block. Dalton Reisner is the right guard. Vikings fans
know
know
him
that
well.
conversation, right? And so it's a lot of that happening on the line.
Yeah, that, and Chase Brown, like I you know this, I went back and watched the film. I told you that the Bengals need to clean their all 22 camera because it was blurry or something like that. But Chase Brown does have juice, it seems, on
very
tape.
much.
But we've learned here in Minnesota time and time again that unless you are applying a vertical push on the front, there's just only so much to be left there. I will say, and we talked a little bit off camera, through company channels. Like this Jamar Justin matchup, this one in particular is interesting to me because the Vikings offense has been putrid through 2 weeks, and I wonder. Justin handles everything as well as he possibly can, but I wonder if this is an afternoon where Jake Browning's just spitting the ball out to Jamar and he's catching the ball 10 plus times and Justin's having trouble getting the ball on the other side throughout the entire afternoon. Like, there is going to be a level of, I think, anxiety or frustration probably would be the better word on the Vikings sideline. So how much they tried, it seems like they do a great job of getting Jamar Chase the ball in every possible way, and I give them credit for that. It does show up on tape.
You know what's funny is this is partially thanks to Kevin O'Connell. When Justin Riscotti came over from Minnesota, he brought a lot of stuff that they were doing to free up Justin Jefferson because Jamar in his early years he wasn't moving around as much. They were much more stable and static in where they lined everybody up. Tyler Boyd was a great slot. He lined up in the slot. T. Higgins is an outside guy. They would move Jamar where they could, but it was more static. Well, when they switched and they moved on from Tyler Boyd, they targeted somebody who would be more versatile, who could move around in there, so they could specifically start moving Jamar around more. New offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher, that was like a major thrust of his taking over. Riscotti came in. They used a lot of stuff that they used for Justin, and you noticed that Jamar was literally, he was everywhere last year. It was in a far bigger capacity. They also finally got him to start utilizing the middle intermediate portion of the field, which had kind of been extinct, a thing that Minnesota does really well with Justin. So much of Justin's success actually fueled Jamar's Triple Crown takeoff last year, which is fascinating. And a lot of it comes from some of the connections, and they were looking at what they were doing with Justin there. So you're going to see a lot of similar ways that they're going to try to get Jamar the ball and move him around and all that stuff, because it's some of the stuff they did with Justin. My question for you would be, what are the Vikings corners going to do? Like, I'm just going off generally some tape, some PFF grades, and you see Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers, and they're not getting great reviews thus far. Where are they at? Like, is that a matchup nightmare type situation right now with Jamar and T coming to town?
Yeah, it's a great question. The Vikings built this entire offseason essentially on the defensive side. Like, the way I've described it is like Brian Flores, if he was at the roulette table and it was black was pass rush and red was coverage, he put all the chips on black and pass rush because of, the signings that they made. They added Javon Hargrave on the interior. They added Jonathan Allen on the interior. Their two edge rushers I mentioned are different than who they had in 2023. Andrew Van Ginkel was a second-team All-Pro last year. We'll see if he plays. He was in the concussion protocol last week. And then Jonathan Grenard, who is, for my money, maybe the most underrated edge rusher in the NFL. And so their front is incredibly dynamic. And the bet was, if you have such an explosive, havoc-wreaking front, then those guys on the back end, be it Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, even Jeff Okudah, who's been a journeyman at this point, they hope that it remove and alleviate some of the pressure on those guys. And I'd say early on through two games, it's felt like that's happened some. Isaiah Rodgers, who's like the number 2 corner, has been pretty good. This guy was in Indianapolis. He was suspended for a year for gambling. Then he goes to Philadelphia. He played a little bit last year, and the Vikings made him a priority signing. He was like a Brian Flores guy. If we get this guy, he can be a really good starter for us. So it hasn't been brutal, but those guys, I mean, there is a lot on their plate this weekend to be able to tackle on the edge. And then you'll remember this. I mean, I'll never forget that 2023 game. T. Higgins made some catches over the top that pretty much won the game for them. Now the corners again are different, but it is going to be incumbent upon these sometimes smaller. I mean, they're smaller corners to win down the field. Like that's a big thing for me in this game is like on some jump balls that Jake Browning will probably throw because he has confidence in his arm. Who's going to come down with those balls? And if I were a Bengals person, like I would obviously have a lot of faith that they can come down with them.
So much of the difference, I think, partially, they do the same thing, but Burrow to Browning is going to be much more of a, I got one-on-one, I'm just going to throw it up and let him go make a play. Burrow's a little bit more of a dissecting, processing, moving to the second, third read and holding for that extra bump to get something to put them in an even better position. Whereas Browning's going to be a little rougher with it. It's going to be, hey, there's Jamar. He's down there. I'm going to throw it to him, and he's going to make a play. And he's had a ton of success, as any quarterback would, just saying throw it up to 5-1, and it usually works out for the best for you. And that's part of what we saw happen in his game against Jacksonville this past week. And he had plenty of other plays, but like the explosives that the Bengals are going to get, like that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be Jake Browning seeing, they're clouding to Jamar. I'm throwing it up to T to go make a play. Last week, he goes over top of two Jags. They run into each other. He struts into the end zone and he's dancing. It's like, that's kind of what it is. And so I'll be fascinated to watch that matchup because that's the equalizer with, it's a backup quarterback, but does it matter if the backup quarterback takes 3 steps and you're one-on-one against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase? That's what they're going to try to tap into.
And that's my question. I mean, you said 3 steps. That's my question really more than anything else is like how much 5-step deeper drop are the Bengals going to be willing to try when you have a rookie and Dylan Fairchild blocking Javon Hargrave? Like that matchup, those matchups on the front, as long as these guys are healthy, and even if the Vikings don't have Andrew Van Ginkel and it's Dallas Turner, like that to me could wreck the game. But that is why I expect the Bengals to just spit the ball out, and then it becomes a conversation of how well after the game, how well did Byron Murphy and Isaiah Rodgers and Jeff Okudah tackle? And it is not going to be easy to tackle those because I will also say Harrison Smith, who has played for 90 years, has not played thus far through 2 games with a personal health issue. I would not be surprised if he makes his debut this weekend. And what that does for the Vikings defense, like he athletically, he's never been the most twitchy guy, but he is critical for this defense because of his ability to make checks pre-snap on the field. And Brian Flores gives him the license to tweak things on the fly, and his ability to see it is beyond any other player on the field. So if the Vikings have them, I do expect that to complicate kind of the back end picture even further for Jake Browning and that offense.
If there's one thing I know about how the Bengals coaching staff feels about the Vikings defense, if the one thing I could have told you before I looked at anything this week, it's that they are in love with Harrison Smith. They have loved Like they hate playing against him. They have so much respect for his game, and they understand how he's the key that makes so much of what Flo does work because of just his intelligence out there. I mean, I think they look at their own defense and say, why can't we have Harrison Smith? Can somebody get him on the phone waiting for him to like not re-sign and maybe have a chance to get him in here, because they just have a lot of appreciation for how tough he is to play against and for what he does there. So what are you thinking? Is Darrisaw, what's our Christian Darrisaw situation?
She's Jen, the ultimate Vikings fan.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Vikings Jan Show fan show. My special guest today is Jared Allen. So, Jared, who you got for the Vikings game this week?
Minnesota Vikings.
Me too. So that's our show. We'd like to thank our sponsor, the Minnesota Lottery, who reminds you this could be your year. Play the new
Vikings
Scratch Game for a shot at $100,000, game tickets, and more. Minnesota Lottery. I'm in. Must be 18 or older to play.
Yeah, Christian Darrisaw, he tore his ACL last October. ACL and MCL was right before halftime of a Thursday night game in Los Angeles against the Rams. From everything we've heard throughout this entire spring, summer, and the lead up to this season, he's attacked the rehab really well. He's done a great job. I think at this point, it is just a matter of, when is he ready to push full throttle and be back out there? And to do, my thought is to do that, knowing who he would be lining up against in his first game back, not the biggest easing back into things. But what I would say is, I feel 50-50 on it for Sunday. I know that's not the people who listen to my show probably want more insight than that. It's just been hard to peg. He was questionable for week 1. And then he was out for week 2. So it's been this herky-jerky kind of situation. And if the Vikings don't have Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, Justin School, the backup, has been in the concussion protocol. So you're potentially looking at third-string left tackle Walter Rouse, former fifth-round pick, who has never started a game, lining up across from Trey Hendrickson. And if that is the case, obviously the Vikings are sharp enough to align TJ Hawkinson or tight end Josh Oliver to chip on every single snap. But that has the potential to really wreck the game. And we talked a lot about the Bengals offense. My other thing is I told you this before we started recording, watching the Bengals defense. Dax Hill was kind of interesting to me. Jordan Battle, the safety, was kind of interesting to me. There were about 3 times where the Jags ran jet sweeps at Joseph Asai, and he just, came up the field fast, and there was a 9-yard gain. So I would say just watching it, I'd have a lot of faith even with Carson Wentz and even potentially without Christian Darrisaw that Kevin O'Connell is sharp enough to scheme it up against this defense. But there's no question when you ask about Christian Darrisaw that if they don't have him and they don't have Justin School, the backup, that is red alert, purple alert, whatever you want to call it, for what might happen, I think, offensively.
Having watched a lot of Trey Hendrickson in recent years, especially, he's obviously gets a lot of pressures and a lot of sacks, but he feasts when you have some scrub out there. When you lose somebody or he just dominates. It's not, he wrecks the game every single time. And you'll see the Bengals use him. I call him, he's kind of a Mariano Rivera. He's a closer. They like to get up, and then you'll watch Trey will just turn up to another level, especially if he has somebody he knows he can beat and has figured out when it's the fourth quarter and this team's coming down. There's a clip it was on the quarterback show, and I think it was maybe one of the last games of last year, and it's Joe's mic'd up and he's on the sideline at the final drive that someone's trying to make, and he just says, "All right, Trey, come on, Trey," because it's like that at the end of every game. Go close the game. And that's what happens. And we've seen it against some guys that he has overmatched, where it's 2-3 sacks on a final drive where, you can't really do anything about it. It's all the Bengals defense really has right now. Like you said, you mentioned a couple of guys. They're in the development process. Al Golden's trying to get his system. The guys just to look, keep it simple, play fast, know what you're doing, because that was they just had so many busts under Lou Anarumo the last couple of years, guys running the wrong direction. It's you can really see them right now being we're going to be simple so everybody knows what to do and just does it fast, and then we'll grow gradually what we add on. And that's what they've been. You're not going to see anything. It's the anti-flow. He's he's doing everything the opposite of what they're doing. It's just absolutely pure simplicity for the sake of everybody always doing the right thing and playing fast.
Well, I told you this, going back and watching the defensive film, it was 3 things: cover 3, man coverage, change up, and then quarter, half, where they're just playing cover 2 on one side and cover 4 on the other, and there's space everywhere. And it reminds it honestly, and the Vikings fans are gonna be like, ooh, it reminds me a little bit of Ed Donatel, who was here in Kevin O'Connell's first year as the DC, tried to do like a quasi Fangio system, and it was abysmal. And eventually he was fired after his first season. And I don't say that as it's like a reflection on Al Golden. I just think from a personnel perspective, I mean, even the linebackers, like they're not, it doesn't look like they're exceptional cover players, and they're not explosive like crazy and knife into the run game. And then the cornerbacks, like how Al Golden tries to cover Justin Jefferson in this game. The thing that I wonder from a Viking standpoint is you watch the film and you see cover 3 and cover 1. Nobody ever plays that against Justin Jefferson. So do the Vikings prepare for an Al Golden changeup, or did they think like this is just what they do, so we're going to torch them over the middle of the field? I don't know. But again, it is why even with Carson Wentz and even potentially without Chris Jerisaw at left tackle, like there is optimism for me in watching it and thinking that Kevin O'Connell will find a way to press more easy buttons than they've been able to press through 2 weeks.
I mean, I've been watching a lot of bad defense in recent years. Okay. So like I will never have confidence that a Bengals defense is going to go out there and not have some serious problems, because it's just who they've been since 2023. They're trying new things, but it's looked very much the same in terms of the lack of pass rush beyond Trey. And then really they were just gifted last week, Trevor Lawrence throwing them the ball a couple of times, or else that game is a blowout in the first half because they couldn't stop anything. And so what does that look like with Carson Wentz and Kevin O'Connell? I mean, I assume that it's not going to be that hard to scheme up some stuff that's going to be explosive. I saw, the over under on this line was about 41. And I'm thinking, I don't know, man, like give me the over on that, because I'm not putting my faith in the Bengals defense to keep this one low. And I do think the Bengals will find a way to score points just by nature of having Chase and Higgins and those guys. Like they scored 31 against Jacksonville. 24 of those were with Browning over 3 quarters. It's not like they're inept with him coming in. But so I like points in this one. Are you feeling that? Are you feeling like we get a little more I'm sure Vikings fans would like to see a few more points.
Yeah, the people here will be infuriated if they finish with 6, and it will be bad. I mean, it'll be Timberwolves season. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm completely with you. It's funny, like you enter the game and it's Jake Browning against Carson Wentz and Romo, but it's a classic where that's how you enter, and then it's like this back and forth, showdown of busted coverages and guys running everywhere. So yeah, especially with the Vikings passing game, I will also say the Bengals run defense didn't impress me either. Like BJ Hill and TJ Slayton were just getting moved off the ball and from vertical double teams from a Jaguars O-line that I'm not totally sure about. So like if Jordan Mason, the Vikings running back, who is now stepping into the full bell cow role without Aaron Jones, like if he goes off in this game, not going to be that surprised. But yeah, I Jamar and T over the top or those guys just creating yak. I fully am with you. That 41 feels like a gift for some people, no question.
I'm with that. Do you have a gut feel on winner or loser, or are you just sort of riding it with I feel like this week's just one big shrug emoji. Like I don't know how much. I don't want to be held responsible for my prediction this week.
Yeah, I mean, the people who listen to you, you're always a homer. That's what they're going to say. I think the Vikings, when they have their backs against the wall like this, and it happened in 2023 where they start out 0-3, ton of turnovers, like there is something within this staff and Kevin O'Connell where they just find something. And I just believe, though Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz, his veteran and age and experience, I expect to kind of stabilize things a little bit. And then Brian Flores' defense, I mean, they like I said, they're mixing coverages at a rate that I didn't even see last year, where it's on the back end. They can play man, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4, cover 8. I mean, palms, like it is everything on the back end. So I see this as kind of a get right opportunity for the Vikings at home, but I could be proven very wrong and be laughed at very soon.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm picking the Vikings here, right on the number by 3. But I just, because it's a tough environment. It's asking a lot of them to come in there and be able to hang. And I'm with you. I think Kevin is going to be able to scheme up some stuff against this Bengals defense. That's been it's like every game though. It's going to come down to if the Bengals get the turnovers that they've been getting on defense for the first 2 weeks, or Carson doesn't throw it to them. I think they had realized that that's probably what it's going to end up coming down to. It's what we'll sit here and talk about on Sunday afternoon is that, oh yeah, it was the 2 dumb throws that Carson Wentz made ended up making be a good day for the Bengals defense and enough to win the game.
And then you watch Carson, the 2 things that I would say, he has arm strength, he has some athleticism, but accuracy has been a problem. And I went back and watched the Chiefs games he played last year and the Rams 2 years ago. And the ball can be sprayed all over the place. And then he will make a throw that's like, wow. So, yeah, you're exactly right. And I think it goes for the Vikings defense too. Like if we're sitting here on Sunday and it's the Vikings forced 3 turnovers and Harrison Smith had an interception, and then that's probably what will sway this game. But I expect to be kind of a drunk, back and forth, sloppy, what is going on? This is nuts type of ordeal. That feels apt.
And multiple gritties, without question. Multiple.
Yeah,
gritties.
It's a gritty off.
It's a gritty off. It's a gritty off. It's just over under gritties is at 3 right now, I think, in this game, without question.
I might take the over on that too. We can get MGM on that. Yeah.
Get MGM in a number of gritties on this one. I think it's very possible we go over 3. This is fun, Alec. Appreciate it. Hopefully I will have my reviews going to Murray's to the steakhouse on Friday. So I feel like a lot of people have been steering me that direction. I'm feeling pretty good about that. And so we'll see how it goes. But I'm super excited to get into the Twin Cities this weekend and have some fun.
Yeah, can't wait to see, man. This was absolutely fun. We will do it again at some point. Probably not under Jake Brown and Carson Wentz circumstances. So
I look forward to finding out who the quarterbacks will be next time we talk.
It's crazy. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Have fun. And yeah, Prize Brewing. You got to go there. Go there.
I'll do that. We'll do it. Awesome. Thanks.
And that'll do it for episode 114 of the Alec Lewis Show. What a fun conversation. Paul is the man. I said it at the top, but they, he does a hell of a job covering the Cincinnati Bengals, and it is a fascinating team. He's been on everything. The Jamar extension, T. Higgins, the Trey Hendrickson conversations with his contract, the drafts, the lack of success with the drafts on defense, and then obviously the Joe Burrow injury of late. But Paul does a hell of a job. His podcast, The Growler, is really high level. If you're looking for more Bengals content, who doesn't need more Bengals content in their life? Thank you guys for being here on the Alec Lewis Show. You can hit the subscribe button, like button on YouTube. We appreciate that. Please go check out First Resource Bank in the description below. Just such a phenomenal online banking platform. And they've got branches everywhere with people in there who will like to talk about your team. So highly recommend going to check out First Resource Bank. And then Unreal, the brand. I can't say enough about the quality of their stuff. I'm looking over, my closet is full of it these days. So based in St. Paul, awesome brand. Please go check them out. And with that, we will talk to you guys soon. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy Jake Browning versus Carson Wentz. Who the heck knows what's going to happen? Thank you guys for being here on episode 114 of the Alec Lewis Show.